Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. I am your host, Terrell Simmons, and we had another episode. I told you we're going to try to get these Consult with Sola episodes to you more often, and we have her in the building today, look at the essence glowing, the hair is flowing like Flo Joe. How are you today, madame?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Terrell. It's your awesome introduction.
No worries, no worries. Now I know we're recording this episode now, and you just came back from was it Women's Venture Summit? How's that?
Yes, that was really awesome. It was nice to be in that kind of environment, around women who are making waves, making moves, women who you could see in different stages, right? Like the founders
Mm-hmm.
that are just fresh, the founders that have raised, the ones that are exiting, the ones that have exited multiple times, the ones that are now coming back to help the fold and reinvesting in women. It was just really nice that we have this ecosystem, right? That really starts breaking the barriers of of not just racism but sexism as well. So that was something that was really really massive to see. I think Stellar Labs and the organizers and the sponsors did a great job. The panels were awesome. What I loved the most, that was a takeaway, was the fact that I feel like that environment, even though it was quite a lot of power in the room, needs more wellness.
Mm.
This is something that I've experienced personally and worked on personally as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as an investor. And in all those ways, you have to really take good care of yourself. And I think that's why this episode today is very, very important.
Yeah, that and the important thing is when you're looking at a powerful ecosystem like that and talking about self-worth and wellness and so forth, it takes like anything in life, there's that old adage saying that it takes a village like to raise a child. So why would we not think of the same terms when we talk about wellness and having the right group of people around you for your road to success, whether it be in wellness, entrepreneurship? Why would we not think that we would need a group of people to kind of help us through that journey? And so we're going to dive into that today. We had a long discussion before even this podcast started about the value of self, your self-worth versus your net worth, having the right group of people around you. So let's jump right in. Like, value of self. Like, I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, just people in general, go through. When you think about that term, value of self, what does it mean to you, and how do you perceive how it shows up in the community?
Hmm. So I'm gonna go like go all professor like. First of all, I want to do like the Merriam-Webster definition of self-worth, right? So
Okay.
it's a feeling that you're a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. Okay, so that's something that is about you feeling worthy. How the value of self, like how you present yourself, and the reason why this is so important, because the way you think about yourself is essentially what you're telling the world you are, and you're
Mm.
literally teaching people how to treat you. So if your self-worth, if your value in your mind is like at 50%, guess what? You're only going to get half from others, because people read into that, right? Especially empaths. Like if somebody is someone as an empath and not using it for good, they're going to take advantage of that. So
Mm.
this is why a lot of people get messed up. You to get taken advantage of, you get upset, sad, angry, and then the whole cycle keeps going on and on in your head that, well, anyway, I'm not worth it, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that if you really want to change your life, right, and this is a major part of self-awareness, you really need to start thinking about your self-worth. And it stems into so many aspects of life, like your family, your friends, where you work, if you're a business owner, your business, your team, the team members, your staff in the future, yeah, your children as well. They will see all of that. And it's so important to regulate that as quickly as you can, as early as you can, so that you can give your best self, not just to the world, but also in return to you as well.
Hmm. Love that. Love that. Love that. And when you think about that, um, in your journey, what do you see is the most important things to kind of help solidify that and really build that?
Hmm. So, in terms of building your own self worth, it's about really going on this self awareness journey, right?
Mm,
You have to look at, what does it mean to be worthy? And sometimes in our heads, especially us that our exposure to maybe like what we see on telly, music and all that kind of stuff, it can affect you in a way that you're thinking, man, I can't even do stuff to that level. But what people don't realize is that that actor that's acting on telly, that could be the only good thing that they can do at that moment in time. Everyone
mm,
has something that they're good at, and that is how I
mm-hmm,
started. I focused on what I was like really good at without blinking or having to read a book or do anything. I sat down, I wrote a list of what that looked like. Then what I did was I went on the internet and I looked for how much people are paid for that. Right. So you know me, I went the money route. So when I did that and I accumulated all my skill sets. And I'm like, what? That man, who can even afford me, right? So that was like where I had to start. That was the simplest thing for me to do. Look at it on the money side. And it's hard because you also look at self-worth based on your relationships, the earlier relationships in your life, your relationship with your parents, your siblings. They make you determine whether you feel like a good or a bad person. Those are regulators. And if you have like parents that might not have been emotionally stable as well, it can affect your behavior and how you see yourself. Your parents' voice is the voice you have in your life until you're able to take control of that voice yourself. So
mm-hmm,
all these things matter, right? So you have to also learn about how the past can weigh on you, right? And then how what you do today will determine your future. So stop carrying that load with you, because if you keep carrying the load, you can't move forward properly. It will
mm-hmm.
only be in very small increments, right? And these
Yeah.
are things that that I had to do myself. I mean, recently I just went through one of those phases, and in going through that and letting that go, I'm able to move forward. And the funny thing was, the moment I did that, this particular weight load was really heavy.
Mm-hmm,
I jumped. I felt like, when you're sprinting, right? That's how I feel like right now, that I'm sprinting forward.
mm-hmm,
So there's nothing really barricading me, because I created those stoppers. I was self-sabotaging myself. I created my own blockades. And now that I've removed them,
mm-hmm,
the way is completely clear for me. And that's like what's so important about self-worth and self-value.
mm-hmm,
You have to take a really good hard look at the mirror, right? And you have to take ownership of where your life is in the present. The past can't be changed. And that is so important. And the past only defines you if you let it.
mm,
So when I meet someone, I don't care what you've done in your past. What I care about is how you treat me today, how you are with me right now in this moment, and how we're going to be, which determine how it's going to be in the future,
mm-hmm,
right? So it's the same thing for you personally. You have to look at yourself, in that way, and look at it more on a behavioral level than emotional, more about how you act towards what you value,
mm-hmm.
including yourself, than how you feel about yourself compared to others.
Yeah, I like to tell people, like, you could use your past to kind of help guide you, but don't let that limit you. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, like, sometimes, you know, people often tell us, whether it be our parents or school teachers, oh, I suggest you go this route in your career, or you can't do that, or you're not able to do this, and what they're doing is they're projecting. That's not, everybody has a unique gift and vision and things that are just meant for them to do. When people tell you that you can't do it, they're projecting because it's something that they couldn't see, or it's something they couldn't do. Or maybe your parents tried to do it and they had a bad experience with it, right? And they're trying to protect you from having that bad experience. But
Mhm.
that could cripple you from, achieving your highest, greatest self. So it's not that you can't do it. It's just, how can you do it, right? And that's for you to figure out. That's
Mm, mm,
not for them to figure out. And don't let that stop you from, if there's this audacious goal you have, go out and do it. I remember listening to an interview that Jay-Z did, and he talked to his uncle when he was early starting out in his career. His uncle was telling him, like, what are you trying to do? Trying to be like, some great pop star? You can't sell a million records. You'll never sell a million records. You might as well just stick to this little thing that you're doing. Like, and now he sold like a million records like 1,000 times. And it's not that his
Yes.
uncle had malice,
Exactly.
it's not his uncle had malice, like he didn't want him to be successful. He couldn't see him achieving that because it wasn't achievable to him, and so he was trying to protect his
Mm.
nephew from having the a disastrous outcome. And that's what could sometimes cripple you, right? Like, you have to get outside your comfort zone a little bit and outside of what other people are telling you, and figure out how you can do that and achieve that. Like, does that
Exactly.
resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, people come to you at their own level,
Yeah.
right? You need to be careful so that you don't absorb what they say and to be on their level. Like I always tell some people, like when it gets too much in a particular circle or phase I'm in my life, I know if I leave that circle at that of friends at that time, when I if I go achieve what I need to do and come back, they may still be in the same spot.
Hmm.
It'll still be the same kind of conversations they want to have. They will still be talking about things that I have completely, transcended, and I would realize how much I've grown. And this is no shade or anything. It's just that they have chosen that because of their own life experiences that make them feel they can't achieve anything else. And that is something that I find very difficult sometimes, that I have to check myself so I don't project. But self-worth is basically, you have to look at yourself as an asset.
Hmm.
And the way I like to look at it is like a farm, right?
Hmm.
A farm can feed you, a farm can feed others, a farm can make you money, a farm can help the environment. There's so many things, but it will not do anything if you do not invest in it.
Hmm.
So when it comes to self, there are things you have to look at. You have to invest in yourself. And when I say invest in yourself, I don't mean like spending more money on a course or anything, which you should do anyway, but there are things like self-esteem, self respect, self acceptance, your self
Hmm.
care, self love, self confidence, and compassion, self compassion.
Hmm.
These are key things that, when you work on them, like you're working on building a farm, building a house, it adds more value to you. You would now not, I mean, you won't take discounts from anybody, because
Hmm.
even if your self esteem is great, you can still have lack of self confidence in some area in your life
Hmm.
that could seep in to you, right? You can be full of self, you can be compassionate, but do you accept yourself?
Hmm.
Or are you so compassionate that it's detrimental to yourself, where you're entering other people's problems,
Hmm.
right? Self-care is another great thing to look at, because are you taking care of yourself? I'm
Hmm.
dealing with that right now because I did not care for myself well enough and I'm going through health issues, right?
Hmm.
Then self-love, that's massive, right? Because if you really love yourself,
Hmm.
all these things, yeah, you wouldn't allow anyone to literally chip into little by little. And sometimes when you look, there's a word that the terminology they give women who, like, I feel like they really love themselves. So like,
Yeah.
this ones that can be self, like, the B word. And I'm like,
Hmm.
but when you see some bees, they are killing it
Yeah.
because they understand their worth, they understand their value, right? They just need to learn some compassion or empathy.
Hmm.
But there's something that keeps driving them to go somewhere. And sometimes these are the same women that will meet the best partners for them, because the person has already accepted them for who they are,
Hmm.
as they are. But when you're self-loathing, right? What chance are you giving anything in your life? What
Hmm.
chance are you giving that person that might love you in totality, but that bit is gonna be toxic to your relationship, right? Same thing with your kids. You're going to pass that on
Hmm.
to them even without you even knowing. So there's just lots of things that are, I feel like the greatest task we have in this earth life is to work on ourselves, because when someone is healthy in every way, guess what, they don't cause any more damage. And
Mm.
if they're healthy in a way that is very, how do I put it, they have that quality where when they step into a room, everybody pays attention. And I don't mean like attention where they're famous. I mean, that person, your spirit sits up because that person is in the room. That energy is in the room, that you check yourself, right? Imagine more and more people like that. Not people who have this false sense of loyalty or
Mm.
royalty or whatever. I'm talking about when you know that this person in this room is going to change my life. I want to be better so that I can deserve to be in the presence of someone like that. And this is not talking about like in a religious sense or anything. This is because someone has taken the time to work on themselves, to
Mm-hmm.
work on their insecurities, to work on their confidence, to work on how they respect themselves so that, self-respect is so important. A lot of people don't understand that. If you respect yourself, you will not be doing stupid things out there to
Mm-hmm.
mess up your name or your integrity, right? If
So
you're
so
confident
true.
about confidence comes from what you know you're good at. Yeah. And that's what everyone should take their time, everyone, to find out what you are personally. It could be just baking, and it could be cutting the yard, whatever. It could be changing bulbs, and feed from that, eat from that.
Right.
That will lead to your next, like thing that you're good at. Because if you focus on, there could be 90 things you're not good at, but the one thing you're good at could be what someone else or a ton of people in the world need.
Yeah.
And that's something that you must understand. Self-worth, self-care could either be what destroys you or what lifts you up.
Yeah.
If you take good care of yourself, your mind, your body, you would live a very fulfilling life. If you love yourself,
Yeah.
all of these elements come together in a very balanced way to make you feel whole.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack under that. From that whole soliloquy. Like I was just thinking, a lot of entrepreneurs that come to me and you and we do consulting for is, they hate to hear it, but sometimes you need to niche down to that thing that you're really great at, and make that the key focus until you blow up, and then you can, tentacle and spread out, and that's the thing that helps you get over to help you set that clear value of self and the thing that you're creating. And people will know when you come into the room, like, those bees that's in the room, they know. It's like, oh, that bee means business. Oh, we can set. Let me give a shout out, because that just made me think of something else real quick. There's a podcast that I know, baddie means business, although that's not the bee we were talking about. But shout out to baddies mean business. But they know if you're a baddie and you're in the room and you mean business and you about your business and you handle your business, right? But I feel there's a never conversation that had on value of self, to which that awareness piece that you kind of talked about and alluded to earlier is, you may have all these great ideas and you have a high value of self. However, to really convey that to the world, sometimes you have to have a self-awareness of, how do you present that to the world, and how do you start to convey that value of self? You have not done the work, or made the investments in yourself to start that LLC, build that list of clientele, and warrant $1 million price range, or 30% equity of a company when you come in, if you don't have the receipts and haven't not invested. So having that self-awareness piece, because we know people like this, they have a high inflated value of self, or maybe it's maybe worth that self-worth is warranted, but they have not put in the things that really match that they're trying to acquire. Like how do you do a healthy level of getting and accumulating to that high value of self, like, and have that self-awareness conversation and talk to say, okay, I know I had this great thing, but how do I position myself to to the same level of value that I see myself having or bring to the conversation? How do you start to level set, create that self-awareness and level
So
set that?
yeah, so when in order to do that, especially with people who are very independent, your inner circle is very important. You
Mm,
need to be very mindful about the people that are around you. The first thing I tell, and everyone I've mentored knows, is I always say go and clean house. And it's like they're looking at me. What do you mean by that? I'm like, well, there's a group of people you're clearly hanging around with that you
mhm,
shouldn't be, that are not letting you, helping you level up. You look for people who are better than you, or who are on the same journey as you. It is so important, which is why I enjoyed being at the Women's Venture Summit. I could see all the phases of my life in that summit.
mm,
I could see, the striving entrepreneur, the one that's stressed out because they got to raise money. It was like, it was just all the levels that you want to achieve and be, and I was looking for that. What I was looking for in that room, in that space, was the person in that room that had achieved what they set out to do, right? And was now chilling, So and I felt that I actually met someone like that, and it was one of the keynote speakers, right? And then it was like the person was really in a very zen zone on their own,
Mm.
which I really liked. And I was really happy that I was able to find that lady and sit with her and talk to her. Like, I enjoyed the calmness because that is where I want to be. Like, peace of mind is the bottom line for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's life, money, everything. So you want to be in that space where you've created this engine that is essentially helping the world, whether you're there or not.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to your inner circle, you must be very mindful of who you let around you. Because if someone is in your circle, let's just put that somebody maybe you've been carrying from your past and something like that, that has not achieved what you have, cannot see themselves moving forward, and has not been inspired by what you're doing to do the same for themselves, that person is going to be a stone in your shoe. They're going to be the
Mm-hmm.
negative voice that you do not need to hear. And I'm
Mm.
sure a lot of people, especially people who have this whole crew mentality or whatever, would understand what I'm saying. In fact, we have known situations where a crew member is the one that actually possibly murders the person that's doing well,
Mm.
the person that's trying to lift everybody up.
Yeah.
This is something that that happens a lot in everyone's community, no matter where you come from, whatever happens.
Yeah.
So you now understand sometimes why people who are extremely wealthy literally become recluses. They keep to themselves, or they only hang with people who are like themselves. When I went on my millionaire journey, I hung with millionaires because I said, hey, I want to understand how you think. Like, how did you get there? I wanted to see, like, because I'm a hard worker. I wanted to see, okay, how is it that you're working that is different from mine? We have the same 24 hours in a
Yeah.
day, right? And then because I did that, I now got motivated to go on a billionaire journey and say, okay, because these are people controlling a lot of assets in this world. I want to understand how potentially a group of them could actually help the world in totality, but why are they not doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that, are hard questions. They say a millionaire thinks about and faces problems of today. A billionaire fixes problems of tomorrow. And
Mm.
that the way my mind was, even though I hung with millionaires, there was still something missing. They were happy with the present and right there. But I am someone that the way my mind works, I think about the future a lot. And it's like I to the point where sometimes I would joke with people that, look, once a week I go and live in the future.
Yeah.
Just so I could gaze and see what's missing now
Yeah.
and bring it back and then start looking for opportunities to plug into that match. And that's
Yeah.
why how I have two patterns now, right? So
Yeah.
it's a situation where your inner circle really matters. I feel like for the first time in my life, I do have the right people around me that I can move, that the way we move better.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving in like similar directions, because when someone isn't moving with you, they're holding you back. Like, there's nothing I can say else about that. That is true. And this includes friends, romantic love relations, includes family, and includes workers, co-workers. Sometimes co-workers don't need to know jack about what you're doing. So many things can affect how you move. And an entrepreneur is someone who, I would say entrepreneurship is like a psychosis, because you can't see, like you're having, hallucinations, because they can't see what you're seeing. They can't feel what you're feeling. You're the only one doing it. So you feel mad a lot of times. So you need people who get that that's what's happening. So you need to be around people who are in the same direction as you, and also people who have achieved what you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
achieve, so that they can direct you properly. It's something that I just feel like sometimes I meet someone, and then I see whoever their circle, and I'm thinking, this is don't match, this is going to cause a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, if they do win, a few years down the line, they're alone,
Mm-hmm.
because they've realized at some point that I can't roll around in this circle. And it's not saying that you're better than that person. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. But sometimes you need to really free yourself from burdens so that you can attract those people who are going to take you to the next
Mm.
uh, level. It's very, 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 very important. Like, and that's what's happened to me. I freed my mind, all those things that were slowing me down. I said self-sabotaging, and eventually the right ones stayed, the right people came.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by cleaning house. So that's the primary thing, I think, because human beings are not designed to be
Yeah.
alone. So it's very important that we do that. Most of my life, my successes, I've done it by myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of I've been the one leading it. Now I'm moving in unison with people on the same level, and we're moving with so much force. It's like it's so impressive sometimes that when you can look to your side, you can see people,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to looking back. Before I had to turn around, and when you turn around, what happens? You're not keeping your gaze on your
Mm-hmm.
goal at the front. But when you look to your side, because that's how you drive, right? You're looking at the side mirrors, you're looking at the mirror and the mirror on the front as well, checking your back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like when you're around the right people,
Yeah.
right? You can't turn your head completely to drive. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. But when you look to on one corner of your eye, you can see this is good, that is good, right? You can see things hitting up, and sometimes the things you don't see, those people
Mm-hmm.
will see it and will help you stop that
Yeah.
or warn you in time so you don't crash.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the key thing. Like, it's like driving a car. That's what it is like, to have the right inner circle, the right people around you, the right influence to look ahead, to help
Yeah,
you
I
look
love
ahead.
that. I love that analogy so much because a lot of time especially in the Black and brown communities, we have this problem with asking for help, or we feel like we have to do it alone, and it's all the burden and struggle is all ours to bear, which is not good for our wellness in the first place. There's that old saying that if you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. And so but that means having the right people to go together with, so that you can go further, have more impact and so forth, which is what you've done. And that's why the inner circle is so important. But I think there's that component piece of learning and dealing with self, and healing self, so that you can attract the people, and be able to see the people that need to be in that circle. um do you, and how does one do that so that they can create space to attract, and also start to build with people? I mean, you've been able to do it this past year. We've managed to find each other, and we've been building together, and we're attracting more people into our space, and growing. So, how have you been able to do that, and what some tips and advice you give from your journey that allows others to kind of follow in your footsteps, per se?
Yeah. The first step for me for self healing was accepting. See, this is the thing about being independent, and being, and I think it's something that I've noticed with a lot of Black women. We just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stop. You need to be still. And sometimes a crash needs to happen for for that opportunity to happen. And that's what happened to me in 2014, right? 2014, 2015. And I realized that I didn't want my life to continue that way. And that is a massive moment for any human being. And in getting there, it required me accepting a lot about myself, things that I didn't want to accept. I don't want to use the word bad, but naughty parts of me that I know affected my business, right? So I had to really, really, really like school myself on who I was.
Mm.
When you do that, you see the good, the bad, the ugly. You now remember every time someone didn't agree with something you'd said or did, or you had hurt someone, you remember the words they say, or if that person is brave enough to even tell you what you did,
Mm.
you now remember that. And then those are the things. And I'm grateful for every um argument, every uh disagreement that I ever had, or anything that did not feel comfortable for me, because it was those things that when it was time for me to really start healing myself, that started me off. Okay, this person said I can be this way, I can be that way, I'm that way, blah 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 blah, or I'm cold, I'm this. So I just listed all of them down. And that's not easy to do, but I had the time because I had lost something and I had nothing to do at that moment in time. All I could do to keep me sane was be a daughter, be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a pause on business for a while. And a lot of people won't believe I did that. But for 2 years, I wasn't an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I pray every human being ever gets: time.
Mm-hmm.
You need time to start that journey. You need to start it with the right people. See, I've been in therapy for a long time, for a very long time in my life, but it wasn't the kind I needed. I needed a therapy that put what was very important to me that a lot of people didn't know about me. I'm very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not religious, but I believe in the Almighty. I believe in God, and I believe in the Trinity. I believe in and I respect other people's religions as well. So anything from any religion I take that I feel feels good. So I needed someone that could bring that into my healing. That was so important because I needed to move in that direction in my life. I felt the life I had led up to that moment was what I would, even though to people they might think I'm a good person, it wasn't godly enough. So I had to figure out, but I didn't know where to start in essence and reading the Bible is not easy. I tried going to church, I tried joining groups. It just didn't work because everyone is coming with their own shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, excuse my French. And I didn't want to be around that. I was like, look, man, I'm going through too much. I can't help do this, and I knew that I needed that piece to be able to do that. So that is how I started, first of all. Then the burden of the pain I was feeling from the crash I had to let it out of my system. It was driving me nuts. So I
Mm-hmm.
wrote my book. I wrote the workbook. The
Mm-hmm.
workbook became what I used to heal myself. So I know you've seen my
Mm.
workbook and you've seen a major part of it. That
Yeah.
this is a very strange entrepreneurship workbook. It has the emotional side at the beginning, like something major at the beginning called you,
Mm-hmm.
because that was what I had to do. I had to focus on me. I had to work on my self awareness, emotional intelligence, all of that, because these were the things that. And the funny thing, discovering myself, I was afraid of myself
Oh wow.
because because I saw the damage. I now realized the damage I had done. In essence, I realized, it was really heavy. It was like, this is why some people go to Buddhist
Mm-hmm.
place or something to go and do this, because it was a lot of tears and shame,
Mm.
you know, things I didn't feel moving like a bulldozer and achieving my goals, right? People are
Mm-hmm.
hurt in the process. And that's something that, even down to my relationships with my siblings, you know, now I've gone to a point now that my relationship with my siblings are so good that I hear them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still the loud sister, and I'm the firstborn, but still I appreciate them for who they are. I
Mm-hmm.
accept them for who they are because I've had to accept myself.
Yeah.
So that means if I had to go through all that shit with myself, Lord knows what you're going through. So I have to be I'm empathetic on that level. Yeah. It really, and then same thing, I always put my mom on this pedestal. And I gave her a tough time when she went through something in her life, while she was here in the US, because I couldn't understand. I'm like, you know, you're the one that's like, what I was looking up to and everything. And then when she crashed, I didn't give her, I had, it was when I started healing, I now taught her how to do the same thing, that
Mm.
you need therapy. And African parents understand what that is. So for my mom to have even gone and experienced it and done the work, exactly, bro, you know what that means. So that journey for me started that way. That was a couple of years ago. I was lucky. I met she calls herself a life coach, but that word has been misused so much. She really helped me evaluate my life. She had tools to help me. In fact, she was so good. I helped her get a book out. She has a book on Amazon. Her name is Erica Marasco,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Find Your Freedom.
Mm.
And literally, what is in that book was how she guided me through when we're working together.
Yeah.
And that really helped. Then she introduced me to meditation, sound healing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, s- crystals and all these things that really put me in a different like place, universally kind of stuff. Because I say that because sometimes so much is going on, you need to practice and have an out of body experience somehow to still yourself, especially someone like me that my brain is like a machine, it's always working. I needed to just stop, right? So that I could think and process things, right? So that made me realize that in a day, I make like 20 to 30 decisions or activities. That's why I was always exhausted. That's probably why I wore my body down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really going to do something good and major, maximum 3 major things should be your priorities in a day. And I asked myself, what time did I even have to be a mom? I realized that even in my healing, T, that I wasn't present for my child growing, like when she was growing up. I was providing, I was caring for her, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not what a child needs. It was when in those 2 years I had a break that I was looking at my daughter in pictures. I just started crying because I don't remember those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I was so wrapped up in my shit that I wasn't there. I had to watch my child growing up in pictures, and I had to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is even with me homes, like, with me being a working from home, um like homeschooling and all of that. I had to really, really evaluate my life, and not everybody has the balls to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do that and you see how messed up you are, how messed up you've been to others, you really take a breath and realize that no, everything, most of the things I've gone through, I actually deserve that. I deserve that. That needed to happen. That train wreck needed to happen. And not everybody can say that, because people keep saying, why me? Oh, this, I'm this, I'm that. This shouldn't happen to me. They never accept their hand in any situation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I refuse to be a victim of my own experiences. No, I've gone back to look at the lessons from every single one, even down to the relationship I have with my dad. I've had to look at a way of not only forgiving him, but accepting who he is. In accepting myself, I can now accept others properly. And that's something that is very tricky to do. You need like the right person to set you off. Not every shrink can help you. You have to really find the right one. And see, there's a shrink for everything. Like I had one help me recently for because I felt like I lacked empathy. And I said, there's something wrong here. This is not normal. Like I feel like I have this delayed reaction to things. So I'm the kind of person that I'm good at funerals. Like everybody will be like feeling sad and crying, but I don't feel anything until after. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the one that would help handle all the stuff. But the moment is done, man, it hits like a brick, and everyone is gone. Everyone that comes around to support you is gone. And I'm alone dealing with those heavy emotions, right?
Yeah.
So that's like, so I said there's something wrong here, that this is not okay. I also found out that I had social anxiety. So in England, that's difficult to figure out because we have this drinking culture,
Yeah.
right? By Friday, we're all in the pub, or Saturday, Sunday, or something drinking. So I didn't realize I used to drink heavily, in essence, for a woman or whatever. But when I dealt with myself and I realized there's something wrong, I get nervous when I'm going out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a friend coming to visit me, I get really nervous. Something's not right. I didn't even know that was a problem. That's social anxiety. I just discovered that in the last 7 years. Sorry, last
Yeah.
5 years. And in doing so, it was like, oh, that sounds like social anxiety. My PCP was like, go and see a neurologist, blah, 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 blah. I got prescribed medication for it and I've been fine. So that's why I always tell people, prepare me for the 8 hours before. And I had to tell my friends. Yeah. And I tell you, but I know I'm better now, because now a friend can say, hey, let's meet up tomorrow. And then even though I'm grunting behind, like in that call, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, why not? Although I'm freaking out, but I can make that move now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only in my inner circle, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you're not in my inner circle, don't try it.
That-
But, it's like, a typical event, I need like at least 48 hours. But I know that about myself now. So
Right.
I can tell my friends, I can tell my acquaintances, and I have that also on my calendar. I'm not going to meet you for a mentoring session tomorrow. You'll see that it's the 3-day gap. So, or 4-day gap, or sometimes 2 weeks. So I have to do that because I'm protecting my mental health. I also
Mm-hmm.
had to accept, even though I've been treated for depression, and I'm a suicide survivor, as I've told you, you know, I had to accept what it was, because it's hard being African and doing that, because we're told to get on with it, or there's no such thing as mental illness or whatever. That it's like, it's very hard in a black, I think it's general in a black household or
Mm-hmm.
or people who have very deep enshrined cultures,
Mm-hmm.
that we certain things we like look at like failures. I've had to embrace failure,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very lucky. I got this opportunity to speak this was like after 2 years, and I'd gotten over. I was in a healthier place in my mind
Mm-hmm.
when I'd written my book. I got the opportunity to speak at this fuck up nights.
Yeah.
Um, that was the first time I spoke about my biggest failure, what I call my biggest failure, um, without crying, and I could do so in public in front of people, and I realized that, oh wow, what I went through was a lesson for everybody else, because
Yeah.
I spoke about it from a mental health perspective, and I didn't realize it was the first time I actually saw people were like, wait, this girl is talking about mental health publicly. I
Mm-hmm.
saw that people wanted that. Then again, that led to me speaking, about the mindset of entrepreneurs, but from a mental health perspective again in San Diego State University,
Mm-hmm.
and then more and more opportunities like that came up.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized more and more that this was needed, that I was supposed to go through what I went through
Mm-hmm.
because I was supposed to help everybody else going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in a more, go ahead, sorry,
No, 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 no. Now that you're in more, go ahead.
balance, balance space, I know exactly how I want to do it. I know who I want to do it with. I have, I said, the best side mirrors, you know, for my car. With those warning signals, and then those cars that have the thing that let you stay on lane, even if you sleep off, it will wake you up, and that's like a kind of vehicle I'm in right now. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not alone. It feels really good because I have like so like before I used to have I had the Jack Sparrow's compass. I didn't know where the
Yeah.
hell I was going, but I'm now being led to what I think the campus only works well is what you want the most, right?
Yeah.
And when I figured out that what I want is peace of mind, I'm being led in those directions. So anything that's not going to disturb my peace, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then I keep moving in that direction. Yeah. So that's like, a good place to be. But again, back to your point, self healing is a continuous journey. It never stops. Every 3 months, I check myself. A lot of people would not be like, what? So yeah, I check myself. And how I do that is actually with my self-awareness exercise. And every time I do that self-awareness exercise, it's always different. From what it is in the book that I published to who I am
Mhm.
now is very different. In fact, you experienced that recently when I shared with you how I describe myself. I was
Mhm.
able to do that without even doing the exercise.
Mm.
And it was a very big moment for me because it was something that if anyone reads that about me, they would
Mhm.
understand where I've come from. They will understand where I'm going and what I will and will not do. So it was very important I did that recently because I now know moving forward, yes, there are gonna be life experiences that are gonna happen. You can't avoid those. But I would always be on this balanced thing that things are not, they're happening for me,
Mhm.
they're not happening to me anymore.
Mhm.
And that's a very powerful place to be. I cannot tell anyone how to heal themselves, but I can tell you how to start. It's about being self aware,
Mhm.
accepting your lot in life, even when it's really horrible, and taking ownership so that no one ever has that power over you, over your life again.
Yeah, I love that. And um, if you get anything from that statement to all my runners listening, life doesn't happen uh, to you; it happens for you. And as you can hear through her passionate journey, all these things happen for her so that she can get to this point in life to not only heal and grow, but help share her stories to help others heal and grow. The book that Shola was referencing is the Buy a Book, which we talked about in a different episode, but I'll put in the show notes for everybody. And I think that's like if you're a brand new entrepreneur, if you're a runner out there starting your journey to health and wellness, so that you can start that side hustle or business, this is an excellent book for you to pick up so that you can run your life and business from a holistic and wellness point of view. I know we're going to do more about that. Thank you for having the vulnerability, Shola, and just sharing that journey with us. You know, something that we did talk about too before we started this episode. We talked about the importance of community and also, self-worth versus net worth. And, I think some people often get that confused. So we want to talk about the difference of that. I think with community, when when we have briefly talk about that, like I was thinking about, before we even got on this interview this morning, I have you were part of my community, and then also have a community of brothers, of Black professionals that we meet, we hold each other accountable, we hold space for each other, be vulnerable, and support each other. And we just had that call this morning. We were talking about, all the things we want to accomplish, how we could support each other, and just being a listening ear. When you talk about community, is that what you reference? Like, so in case somebody can't, if let's say therapy is not your thing, could they could probably get therapy through community, right? Or get resources through community, but having the right community, is that what you mean by community? Or like, what when you talk about community in this space, what does that look like for you, and how do you envision it?
So in terms of value, value is not just about looking at yourself, because once you've found yourself and you've gotten yourself to a good place, you just have this overwhelming sense of helping and serving others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the immediate place to look at is your community, because in communities that are successful and really and doing well, they have a system in place to make sure people like themselves do well, right? So when I look at my community and I look at it based on being African, being Nigerian, being Yewa, being British, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
also now on my journey on becoming American, right? It's very important for one to understand that I've lived everywhere around the world, right? And you can only get a subset of people that look like me that are doing well,
Mm.
right? And it's very frustrating knowing my heritage, knowing how wonderful our culture is, and not seeing that emulated or seeing the good of it being utilized, even in my own country, as it will, where my parents come from, right, and where I'm from. That can be frustrating. And it means that, and a lot of people always wonder, like, oh, sure, why are you shy? I've had to become this way because people have to hear me. It's just that simple. I'm not doing it because, oh, I can't control, like, not to the point that like, doctors telling me that you need to watch yourself because it looks like that you're having hearing issues. And I'm like, well, because other people did. They weren't hearing my voice. So I had to make sure they did. Even if it was through my work, if it was when I was in a room and I was speaking, something I had to do to make sure that I was noticed. And I wouldn't need to do that if I had a community behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So my inner circle is a reflection of how I want my community to be, of how I know it can be. That's a very powerful mission or vision to have. And to it's you I can in my lifetime I cannot help everyone that looks like me,
Mm-hmm.
but one can inspire. You have the likes of people like Oprah, you have the likes of people like Maya Angelou, you have the likes of people like Obama, and lots of people before them who we are not even aware of what they've achieved to inspire our own community. So when I talk about community, I look at different layers. I look at a community that isn't striving or isn't succeeding, and one that is. I look at successful communities who are successful outside of their ethnic origin, of their origin. And that makes me, I look at them and I think, why are they doing that? Because they've embraced their culture. They don't mess
Mm-hmm.
around with that. I remember growing up Nigerian, but I used to hide who I was. Even when I moved to England, I think I was 14 then. I didn't realize that I was hiding myself. My accent changed, obviously. Even the music, down to the music I listened to the food I ate. But it was when I had my daughter that I realized that this is not going to work. To the point now where I'm actually looking for opportunities in Africa to be able to spend at least 3 years there while she's still in secondary school, so she can experience and be around people like her. Because I don't want her growing up thinking she's alone. Because I've seen that. I've seen Africans
Mm-hmm.
here who've grown up here who feel alone, who can't
Mm-hmm.
connect. And this is something that's very important. So I look at value to my community about what can I do to make my community better?
Yeah.
What can I do as who I am now? This is not by me overinflating myself, and it has nothing to even do with cash. Although cash is helpful, but this is about how you present yourself.
Yeah.
Because someone said the best way to teach someone is by who you are. And that is that is not the way the world is now. I always tell people that it seems like it's harder to be good. It's easier to be bad than to be good.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of effort to want to not just be a good person but do good.
Yeah.
So like when you look at your community, it's like, okay, I know what my value is. I know my skill set. I know my self-worth. How can I take what I have learned or my experiences to now elevate this group of people and create a
Mm-hmm.
system or systems that not only would my community thrive, right? But the in us thriving, the world changes. It literally makes the world better. And that's something that's so important. I always say to people that, especially when where you have gender disparities, that countries that respect women or give women opportunities do better than those that do not,
Mm-hmm.
because you are going to be carrying half of your nation if you do not give the other half opportunities. And this is something that is, no matter what, in terms of different communities, ethnicities, is the same thing. You cannot think you are going to prosper if the other communities in your country are not doing well. You will keep on covering for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something where it's very, very, like as an economist, I see that all the time. And when I look at
Mm-hmm.
solutions, when I'm doing community programs, I have to look at it in with that lens that, okay, we have to sort you guys out, but what can you as a group of people do that's going to benefit all? And that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a big advocate of social equity, because social equity doesn't look at just the problem or what has happened. It looks at how the benefits will help everybody else. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I mean by community. So for me as a person, I know what I'm good at. I know how I can help you. And I'm thinking, how can I do this now on a community level? It's not about my inner circle. My inner circle already understands my value already,
Mm-hmm.
and they feed me already. So
Mm-hmm.
now is the next level, is the next stage. So you have to ask yourself, and this goes down, right? Like, for instance, now I'm going to go local about what's going on in San Diego. They're developing a social equity program, in the cannabis space.
Yeah.
And they have to think about people who have suffered, from war on drugs. And they're not thinking just about the person that maybe went to jail. They're thinking about the
Mm-hmm.
communities, the families, right?
Yeah.
They're thinking about, if someone went to jail, what did that mean for that family they left behind, right? What did it
Mm-hmm.
mean for a single parent that had to take care of kids, or the kids that got lost and had to go into the system because of that? You
Mm-hmm.
have to think about, when you create a problem, it's a ripple. Whenever you do anything, good or bad, there's a ripple effect. How do you match that? How do you work on that? And that's something that I'm very intentional about. If I do one thing, it has to be something that echoes. It has to be something that is going to reverberate and help more people. I don't do projects that won't help at least 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very adamant on that now. And that if you come to me and then I see what you're doing, and if it's only going to benefit you and your shareholders, I'm not going to work on it. And no
Yeah.
matter how much you plan on paying me, I need something that is going to help a community. And I don't mean communities that of people that look like me alone. I mean communities that are suffering, that
Mm-hmm.
have been disenfranchised, basically. And this is something that is so important, that you're not giving gifts for yourself. They're
Mm-hmm.
for the world. So making that decision to be like, okay, to, I understand my value now. How do I make my community better? It could be even
Mm-hmm.
just your city. It could be your state. It could be your country. And if you got the capacity, it could be the world. So these are just the things that when I say value to community, I don't mean like the community that, like, for me, I'll be like, automatic immediate community for me will be Nigerian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next will be African. And then the final will be Pan African.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't do that. So I went for the final, which is Pan African, because that will feed into Africa and also into Nigeria. So that's basically the way, when I understand value to community, is for you to look at how far can your skill set take you,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that it might seem like a massive magnitude of a job, but when you have accepted and really, really gotten yourself to a certain level, in terms of self-worth, you understand that you can do it.
Yeah. I love all that. Now, you've given us so much to think about and to unpack in this episode. So we've talked about the value of self. We understand that the value of your immediate circle, value of community. Now let's wrap it up by putting it in a little pretty bun to tell and explain everybody the difference between that self worth versus your net worth. When you look at that and break that down for people, what does that look like, and what would you like people to take away from this conversation of self-worth versus net worth?
So in self-worth, when you work on that and you're in a healthy space, right? You know your value, you know what you're worth. You now have to look at it monetarily, of course, yeah, right? And net worth, obviously, this is basically how you've grown your wealth. And it's good to look at that too, because you need to know where you're starting from. Some people have this dream of becoming a millionaire, but they don't even know where they are right now. Realistically, they have no clue of where they are. And you're laughing because it's true. It is so important of knowing your net worth. So when you're starting this journey, do it together. I started mine at first with my self worth because I was so messed up, guys. But then my network came into play because when you do your self worth, you know what happens? You start looking at everything you've achieved, right? And you're thinking, man, I should have more, right? Like
So
literally, I
true.
should be way ahead. Yeah, and it's because of your faulty habits of self that you didn't maintain your net worth properly. Okay, some people are lucky; their families already set up a system, so they already have things in place. But if you notice, billionaires by the third generation, they lose all that family loses all their money. There's a reason why that happens. Okay, so it's very important to understand your net worth. Maintaining wealth is harder than creating it.
Hmm.
So if
So
you do
true.
not have things in place to maintain, right, you are going to, yeah, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, I had a conversation with the FA that you introduced me to recently, and he said it takes 18 months for someone to blow through millions of dollars without a plan. And I understand what he's saying. I've been there, right? I've made a lot of money when I was a consultant in Africa. And I'm like, okay, where is it now? Where what I had then should could have done so much if I'd maintained it properly. So
Mhm.
obviously you have to evaluate that almost simultaneously as you're working on your self worth. Don't put the same. They're not the same, okay? You're not a thing. Okay. So you don't sell yourself, sell your soul, as people say. You have to keep it separate, okay? Working on yourself, it's very different from working on your net worth, okay? Let's not mix that up. But they go hand in hand, okay? So let me explain how. So we talked about your value to your inner circle, okay? The value to your community. What I've learned that the ones that have sustainable net worth or wealth have a very healthy network, right? They say your net
Mhm.
worth is your network, right? That is
Mhm.
very true. Very true because you need to be able to have access to be able to get things done. I am very fortunate that I have an awesome brother that whenever I have any issues, he just says, "Hey, I know someone that can help you." You're laughing. Like that is what you need in life, right? That's something you need. And what I love is that as I'm healing myself and getting to a point where I can now have my own and build my own network, I have someone beside me that's letting me utilize theirs, access theirs to get to that point. And that is something that's very, very important. You need to work with someone that understands what that means. They will teach you, right? Plus, they also check you when you're messing up as well. And you need that. You need to be humble. If you're not humble, you're not going to go on this journey very well. You're going to have a lot of pride smashing moments. And if you don't do well, you need to just take ownership. You're going to suffer. And it's gonna take you longer. You're gonna lose people and friends and credibility. So that's something that you really need to make sure that you keep in check. Have an accountability partner in this journey. Now, when you decide you are going to serve others, your life changes. Money becomes a different flow. It's abundant. It's like that there's something waiting already on the side for waiting for you to make the decision on what you are really going to do in life to make that massive jolt, to make this world better. It's already there waiting. But you need to get to a point as a person to see that opportunity. Because if you're only looking for money at the time, you ain't going to see that.
Mhm.
It is in serving others. that I've made the most impact, not just on the community, but for myself financially. And understanding my value and net worth when I go into certain opportunities. And this is very recent. This is not all my life. This has been recent in the last decade, right? That I have been able to have sustainable income. So when an entrepreneur, founder, or even someone in a company does something that is going to change the momentum or lives or better a mass amount of people, they are more successful and
Mm-hmm.
sustainably. Sustainably means that a situation where you don't need to keep borrowing to keep your doors open, right? People are taken care of in
Mm-hmm.
your company, whether you're a worker there or you own it. There's so many things to look at. You can now feed, right, other machines that are going to help more people.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important. So your net worth is not about what you can accumulate for yourself. This is why that conversation we had recently, the episode we had about worth, was about wealth and knowing and understanding what does it mean to you when you've made that achieved that level of wealth that you're happy with, that enough. And it's something you need to know your number, because if not, you will keep on acquiring, and that's what greed is.
Mm-hmm.
When you know that yourself and your family are sorted, guess what? You now have the capacity to do more and help others. And helping others is not by giving them financial aid, because that's, you can see Africa, we get that all the time, but look at where we are. It's about teaching us,
Mm-hmm.
enabling that person, enabling that community, going into the community and saying, okay, what is the level of education? What is the level of skill set? How can they impact the labor market? What kind of skills can they do naturally? It's about looking at it. For instance, we are good at sports, right? We're good at music, creativity. That all those skills can be translated into a company in a different way, or create spaces, create industries that you may not even thought of as well. So these are things like, when it comes to your self-worth, it's tied to your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel good with yourself, guess what? You are going to have problems down the road. We have seen a lot of people who have committed suicide, who have a lot of money, who've made people happy. One of the ones that the most heartbreaking for me was Robin Williams. This is someone that made me laugh consistently growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And one did not realize how sad he was. Same thing with Kate Spade,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then is it Anthony Bourdain, the one from CNN that went around the world, went to Nigeria, ate our food.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that we've lost because, they haven't had they haven't had that chance to realize how valuable they are to this
Mm-hmm.
world. And that's something that, is so important. When you realize that, it matches up to your net worth, and you just consistently keep doing and helping more people than you could even count. And that's where,
Mm-hmm.
the coupling lies.
Yeah. So true. So true. Shola, it has been a pleasure as always to have you on to coach and consult us. I feel like this is $1 million worth of advice for free. But that's what we do here. We're all about community, we're all about
Yes.
giving, and that will pay dividends for years to come. If you want more from Shola, definitely connect with her. Grab the Baya book. Me and her could probably talk for days and hours, but I love to keep these episodes a drive time episode. If you ever have questions, email us. Join the. I'm gonna put our email in the show notes. Let us know something that you want to hear about. If there is anything that you want us to do that we haven't done yet, email us. Let us know. That's all I have. Show any last words of wisdom for the people before we sign off?
Oh, well, I'm really happy that we did this episode, Terrell. I'm hoping that this will spur people who are maybe confused on how to step forward or move forward to make a change. If what we've said today is going to help you, I would love to hear about it. We would love to hear about it. Share it with us, on social media. And if you're very private and don't want to do that, just write us a note so we
Mm-hmm.
know that this is actually touching you in some kind of way. I mean, I can only speak about what I've experienced. And reading has helped supplement this to make sure I'm on the right path. Also, you know you're in the right place in life when you have the right people around you. People who just, when you're
Yes.
around them, you just feel good,
Yeah.
right? You feel vulnerable. You can tell them what's going on. You can cry. You know, you can laugh. I don't even know what it felt like for you, T. The first time I cried in your presence or something. I think I was
I
being,
was okay with it. I was
it
like,
was something
okay, all
I
right, let's
yeah,
let's unpack
yeah.
this. Let's go.
Yes, you need that. You guys, we need that. Like the world, like COVID really taught us that we could be gone any minute, right? But COVID also gave us something that a lot of us didn't have. It gave us extra time to realize we could do better. And it's,
Mhm.
we're hoping that this episode would just help you get on that track, right? On moving forward. And if you want more, if you need more and stuff like that, as Terrell said, just reach out and then, we'll see what we can do. Okay.
And this has been another episode of Rise Urban Nation. To all my runners out there, thank you for supporting us. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next time.